Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Procurement Review tool training. This is really just an overview, if you're up for procurement review, of how to fill out the procurement tool and ask any questions that you might have. Let me get my PowerPoint up and going. Let me move one quick thing before I start going. So if you probably received something from, it's called DWG CPA at DWG CPA.com. That is who we have contracted to do our procurement reviews. So if you know you're up for review and you haven't received anything from them, when we sent an email out, we did put their information on there. I'm just telling people that I highly suggest, oh, there we go, that you reach out to them because they have access to our system. So I don't know, I'm not for sure the exact contact person that they're using or where the contact information that they're getting it from. And I know sometimes it can go to spam or okay. Can anybody else hear me just to see if it's, because I am, okay, so good, you do have sound. Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can get it just a little bit louder, and I'll try to set closer too. But I can usually project pretty well. Good. Okay, so I'll put it in the chat, like if you cannot hear, check speakers. So I'm going to be able to answer any of the questions. So I will say essentially for 3 years, I did procurement reviews. 2 of those years I did solely nothing but procurement reviews. So I'm pretty familiar with how these are set up and to answer some of those questions and where we suggest you put some things, because this tool is old. Every year we're supposed to be getting a new tool and we haven't done that. And so some of the information on here is old, but the tool is lacking a lot of stuff. There's really only one tab for you to fill out, and we're going to go through it line by line. I have right here, as you can see, a copy of the tool. We emailed you the tool if you didn't have it. This is the review. So you do have to fill this out because this is the actual review, and you send the Excel form back to DWG, and that's all you have to do. This is the review. It's a back and forth. They're not going to come out to your facility, to your school. They're going to add, so what they do is they send you the tool, they ask for some information, and then you send that back. And then they go through the tool and select what they need to, and then ask for information about the items that they selected. And then you send that back in, and then they review it. And then that's kind of the end. So it is a back and forth, back and forth. If you do not send stuff to them, they will ask us to lock your claims, and we do that. And they are just the ones to be like, can you please lock it? We haven't received stuff, or, and it goes back and forth. I mean, we've had some people that were literally, we locked them like 10 different times. So I understand, just double check your email address, make sure that their stuff is coming to you and is not spam. So today we're going to go over, and I want to get you out of here as soon as, like, if I can at 2, I do want you guys to ask a bunch of questions. I want to help you out as much as possible. There is the equipment grant going on. This is going to be posted. See, nobody should be on, just me, and I'm the only one in here. So let me make sure everybody is muted. That may be coming through your speakers because I'm not hearing anything on mine, and nobody else's speakers or nobody else's microphone is undone. So I want this presentation right now is going to be uploaded in the school calls and walkthrough section. So you can always go back out there and go through this again if you need to. The equipment grant that they're going to go over today at 2 o'clock will also be in the school's calls and walkthrough section in other documents. So you can go out there for either of these if you need them again. So if you guys need this again, it will be out there. We will also send it to you. It just may take a day or 2 because I have to get this into a YouTube video. And the guy who I usually work with, he gets it to me very quickly, but if he's out, so sometimes it may take a little bit longer, but he's really helpful. So we're going to go over what is procurement, information to be updated on the tool, because again, this tool is really old. This is the original tool that we got when it first came out. Oh my gosh, I think we're in year 5 or 6 now of the procurement. I think we're in year 6. of doing procurement reviews, explanations on the different methods, and the step-by-step of how to fill this out. So we'll also send you the slides. We've sent them to you 3 per page, but we'll send it to you 1 per page. That way it's easier to see. And then again, we'll send out the link, and then this is all going to be posted under other documents that's called school calls and walkthrough. And that's also where we're going to put the equipment grant that I want to hopefully get you out of here by 2. And they'll try to even stall a little bit so you guys can jump on that if you need to as well. So what is to be procured? So if you buy anything with child nutrition funds, it has to be procured using USDA guidelines. That's just the rule. That's why they're doing this separate procurement review. They just want to make sure that the things that you're buying with child nutrition dollars, you procured it correctly. So I do have a copy of the email that they did send out. I just kind of want to show it to you. This is a copy of the email. This top part is the information they told me, but this is the email. And I did let them know that really it's for school year 22-23, but they do look at previous year information. So we're looking at everything from last school year, kind of like when we do a school review, we look at the last month claim to validate that claim. When it comes to procurement, we look at the previous school year, except if you're a food service management company. We'll look at current and previous year, just depending on, but we have to validate the last information that we have. And let me see if I do not have a poll. So this is what they sent out. They did put the link on here if you needed it. And then they had 2 attachments. They had this attachment with it, the checklist item. And then they also had the tool, which we also sent this out. We sent this checklist out and the tool as well. So you do have a copy of that. And then again, we'll send all of that back out to you after this is done. If you did not get either of those emails, we'll send it to the person who logged into Zoom. Now, something that is unallowable is all goods and services purchased with child nutrition funds. It can only be used for child nutrition funds, or it must be prorated if it is used for somebody else other than child nutrition. One thing that you have to give them whenever we're looking at procurement is we have to look at last year's information, but you give us all code 700. And we've seen lots of stuff showing up on code 700 that was not a child nutrition purchase. Like it should not have been for child nutrition. I've seen cell phone bills for the entire district on there. And we've seen defibrillators where there's not even a defibrillator in the kitchen. So we will, if we see items that are not supposed to be on there, we will bring it up. But just to let you know, we have to look at all code 700 because everything that you spend child nutrition funds on, you have to procure it correctly. So we have to see everything that you purchase with child nutrition funds. Now, if you purchase something for child nutrition and you use the general fund, we don't look at it. We only look at things that you did use child nutrition dollars on. So again, all those codes everything that you coded to 700, we're going to take a look at. When they ask you for the documentation, they sent you the tool. They need you to send the tool back. Again, they need the expenditure report from last fiscal year, which is 2021, 2022. You have to send a copy of your current procurement plan. If you do have food service management company, they'll ask to see your renewal and the contract, and then they'll want some current year invoices, but you don't have to send those right now. They will get that when they tell you some documentation. If you have a food service management company, they'll always have to look at this food service management company. So I'll show you the sections, and when we do a review, we only review partial. Like if you have 5 things in one section, we only have to do a percentage. But when you do have a food service management company, we always have to look at that contract. And then again, you have to send in the Excel procurement tool. We used to have a lot of people, when I was doing them, they would send it in PDF, and you can't do that. That whole document is the review. We have to use that review tool, and I'll kind of show you why. But we're going to go through that Excel, but it's a very easy review. The hardest part is just, you do need to have a copy of your expenditures. So make sure to fill out the tool. You also have to have a copy of your 2021, 2022 expenditure worksheet. So on your procurement plan, it does need to be board approved. Now, you do not have to have it board approved every year. You only have to have it board approved whenever you make changes to that policy. It does have to have methods of procurement, the chart of procedures, the code of conduct, and then that separate piece of paper, the protest procedures. Now, other things that have to be within the procurement plan is the Buy American clause. You have to have a statement regarding minority firms, women's business enterprise, and labor surplus, geographic preference, and then beverage contracts. Now, if you don't have a procurement plan, you can adopt ours. We have a prototype in the resource lab. In other documents. It's under procurement. And I don't think all of our procurement section got moved over from last year. So you can, when you log in and you go to other documents, at the top it says 2023, you can also go to 2022. I think we made one small change into the procurement plan, but nothing big. And sometimes when we make changes, you don't necessarily have to make changes to yours if you're still following the same guidelines. Like sometimes the thresholds have changed, and as long as you're still going in with those thresholds that you put in there, you don't have to change it. So we're going to go into the tool a little bit, but I did want to show you I can show it to you on mine as well. So this is the tool. And as you can see here, make sure that you click the enable editing. That's one thing for sure. You won't be able to do anything until you hit that enable editing. Now let me scroll up to the very top. You have to insert your school name right here, because again, they're getting hundreds of these. So just make sure you put your school name in here. And the best thing to do is when you save it as your school. And then if you can put your county district code, that can be helpful as well. So when you save it, you can just save it as your school name and procurement tool, or however you would like to do it. Because again, they're going to be getting hundreds of these. Now, something else, this is the actual tool. I'll be pulling it up periodically. So see, I can scroll down and I'll show you. You're only going to be filling out this one tab at the very bottom called this SFA procurement table. This is the only tab that you have to fill out. There are some instructions right here if you'd like them. I don't feel like they were very helpful. That's kind of one reason why we're doing this, but this is the only tab that you have to fill out. All of this green stuff right here, that is the review. So the stuff that you enter here and some things that we do, it calculates for us onto those. So again, this is the only tab right here that you have to fill out, is that SFA procurement table. And again, we'll send the slides out to you and there'll be one per page so that you can see them better. But it tells you right here, this is the only tab that you do have to fill out. This is the only one, so it's fantastic. So when we start into the tool, the very top section again is where you put your school name. And then right here in number 2, you do need to list every single person that might have done something with procurement. Say some schools we have it, maybe it's the cafeteria manager and the superintendent. Whoever does any procurement, whoever spends any child nutrition dollars and does procurement for them, everybody names needs to go in here, and their title. And again, their responsibility. So one could be like, I do food and milk. Maybe someone else does equipment, however you do it, but we do need to know whatever your responsibilities are when it does come to procurement. And then over here, you put the contact information. You can put an email address. If you want to do email, because that's really, I would suggest email. That's how they'll do all the correspondence. If you put a phone number there, we will call you for that correspondence. But again, if you have one person that does everything for procurement, that's great. But if you have multiple, just list everybody in here that you do, that we may have to contact. So this is me the. Well, if the previous one is still there, you can put the previous one and the current one. That's a very good question about if you have a food service director, do you put the previous one or the current one? If the previous one is still there that we can contact them, that'd be great. If they're gone, we're going to have to use the current person. So, and I know that can get really hard because you don't know what happened last year, but this is one good thing to bring up is why people should have documentation on file of what they did for procurement. So let's just say you are a school and you use a vendor, and they should show, like, have a piece of paper like who they contacted. Maybe they printed out emails or have emails of who they emailed, and they can show who's responded and who didn't. So this is a really good learning opportunity. It doesn't happen quite a bit, or maybe they do have it, but it was all in their email. Food service manager orders food and milk. No, we're going to go through the tool, and I'll show you where to put everything. So I'm going to show you exactly where you have to put your information at. So after we put in who at the very top, whose name, who's responsible for the procurement. And again, it's for the procurement process. So you may put like if the super, and a lot of times with food service management companies, the superintendent was the main person who did the procurement. So we would want both the food service director and the person who is responsible again for procurement, because we do have to ask questions. So down in number 2, so right underneath the contacts is number 2, and it says the small purchase threshold. We need to know what your school district's small purchase threshold is. Now, this is going to probably say 150,000. That's very old. Again, this is an old tape. This is an old review, and we don't change really any of it. I did change this one, but this was USDA. So a lot of it probably will say 150,000 on there, but it is 250,000. Yours may be 250,000. Put that there. Maybe yours is 100,000. Whatever your small purchase threshold, whatever it says in your procurement plan, that's what goes in this in part 2 in this number 1 right here. So I have a maintenance director who gets quotes for large items, but I do the purchasing. You can, if you feel like they might be, if you feel like that person, if you're the one who does do the purchasing, or if you feel like it's whatever you think, like we're probably going to go to you. It just depends who is actually doing the, like we need to know who goes out on bid. Who is the person that makes the final decision on your items that you're purchasing? That's what we need to know. So I'm getting a lot of questions. These are good questions about who goes on here. It's going to be very specific to your school. It's who did the procurement process, or who, maybe it's food and milk. Who sent out the bids? Who's the one that decided on that purchase? That's what we need to know. So that's a very good question as well. So if your procurement, if it was 150,000 last year, but now it's 250,000, I would go ahead and put 150,000 because you did update your policy. And when you send in your policy to DWG, let them know that you updated this year, and maybe that's why you updated it is because last year you did go over. So very good question. I would show what you had on there as of last year, and then go ahead and put the 200 and make a note if you can on your procurement plan, like even a sticky note, or even in an email, say we were at 150,000 last year, but now we're at the 250. So in the tool, I would go ahead and put 150, and then go ahead and send your current procurement plan showing the 250, and explain to her, or explain, I say to her because it used to be Robin, but now there's like 3 or 4 people helping her, and that they all do the reviews. And just explain to her that last year it was 150 and that you did increase it this year because maybe you did go over that threshold, and then you already, since you went over the threshold, you've already corrected that. I will not give the list of schools for procurement review. You can email me at my email. We put that in the email that we sent out yesterday, that if you would like to know if you're up for review, you can send me your email and I will let you know. Now, if you do have an agreement with the food buying group, you put that information in number 2. So again, if you're using a food buying group or a co-op of any sort, put that here. And if you don't have to say if you pay any fee. I don't know if you pay any fees or not, but they're just saying if you pay any fees, or if you have a food buying group, put yes or no here in that column. And that is the very top part of the review tool. So some information again about the tool is the threshold is not correct. We understand that it is 150. So one is micro purchasing went from, in here it's 3,500, and then it changed to 10,000, then now it's 50,000. And then small purchase again is 250. That is the federal, but put whatever your school district is. Don't put the federal. We'll go by your procurement plan and by what your district is doing. The thresholds, again, are used based on the district's procurement plan. And if you do need more lines, and I'll show it to you, if you need more lines when you're filling this out, like up here at the very top, it has a lot. But so this is the small purchase. As you can see here, this is where I was talking about. So see, it says 150,000. Again, it is 250. So don't worry about that if your amount is over that. And this is where you put, and a lot of these are drop down boxes right here. So you put yes or no. And you may have to zoom it in because some of these boxes are so small, but these do have a lot of drop down boxes. So always check at the very end, like right here, this you have to type in. Some of these you have to type in, and then some of these will have a drop down box. But if you click on it, it will show you, like this one, a vendor, it will have a drop down box, and we're going to go through all of these. But if you do need to add more lines, just come over here to whatever one you need, just kind of click to the whole row, right click it, and then hit insert, and you can insert some rows. But I will tell you, when it does insert, it takes away the calculations. So if you want to, you can go at the very top, what I've done, and then it will let you fill down, and then it will move everything down as well. Or you can put your stuff on the last row. We can do it too, but I just want to let you know about that feature. It just kind of takes out some of the because if we select it, it won't take it over to the next page, but we can kind of fix that. So again, it's frustrating with a tool that we've been supposed to be getting a new one for years and we still haven't gotten it. If there's a section that you don't need, leave it blank. So if you don't, most of our schools do not do formal procurement, or maybe you don't have a food service management company. So if you don't need it, just leave it blank. Again, we're going to go by your expenditure list of your code 700, and we're just going to make sure that all the items that are there for child nutrition, most of them, there's some things you don't put on there that you will put into the tool. We cross-reference that. So all sections in this review information is from last year, but it is all from last year. So make sure all the information you're doing is from FY 2022, but we do call it review year 2023. We just are looking at past year's information. If you were a food service management company last year and you went self-op this year, or you were self-operational last year and this year you're a food service management company, we do look at both years. So it is a little bit encumbersome, but we do have to look at both to make sure that if you got off a food service management company, that you did your procurement correctly, which you technically did procure last year, or if vice versa. We just have to make sure that the process was done correctly. And the good thing about Oklahoma, because not all states are the way, we have an RFP that you have to use for a food service management company. We tell you the process, so they're just reiterating and looking at the contract and stuff again, where some states you do have to create your own contract, so they really have to look at the contract more. But make sure if you do have a food service management company contract, they will want to see your contract, the original contract. And then if you're in a renewal year, they want to see the renewal sheet to see what you're supposed to be billed. Items that do not have to go in this tool is if you have a health department fee, if you have a commodity fee, utilities, or transfer or funds, or labor. And I forgot to put labor on here, but those items that you spent child nutrition dollars on do not have to be procured, because you can't procure the health department fee or commodity fee. You have to just pay it. So any of those items, if they can, like utilities, like electricity or water, when you don't get a choice. Now, if it was maybe I'm thinking of it, I'm a country kid and I can't think propane. If it's propane, you do have a choice of who you can buy from, but you don't have a choice of who you get your water from, your gas, your electricity. But because you can't choose that, did you say that the food service personnel? No, this is only for this. So I have a good question. Do you add the food service management company personnel in number 1? And you do not. This is the school had to procure their items correctly. So what we will look at to make sure that the school district procured the food service management company correctly. So everything that we do is solely based on people at the school district. Now, again, when you're filling out this tool, what we would see a lot is people would put in the tool of they would look at the dollar amount and be like, oh, I spent less than that, so that's where it goes. And that's not the case. It's how you procured it is where it goes. So I'm going to quickly talk about micro purchasing and small purchase, because a lot of people get very confused by this. So when micro purchasing, you're buying a lot of items from a lot of different places, and you don't check prices. With small purchase, you are checking prices. Like if you're using a vendor, you checked prices, like you sent bids out to 2 vendors and you got 1 back. What happens a lot that we see with micro purchasing is people are like, well, I bought pest control and it's under 50,000, so I'm going to just put it in micro purchasing. That's not the case. We have to know how you procured it, because we see it a lot. People put pest control on there, but you didn't have a lot of. You only used 1 pest control company. If you used 1 or 2 or 3 pest control companies, then you could put it under micro purchasing. But when you're only using 1 pest control company, you need to check prices. And we see that quite a bit. So make sure that you're putting things in the tool in the place that it needs to go. like I do have a slide in here and I'll show you, but like most things that are going to go in the micro purchasing are like emergency food purchases, or if you have repairs, things like that are what you're really going to put in micro purchasing, because you maybe didn't get prices, but let's say I know you can't always prepare for it, but maybe your fridge went down and then your dishwasher went down. So you got parts from Lowe's and you got parts from just Ace Hardware. So it's really, I would just say when you're filling out like, and you have repairs that you paid for in child nutrition, I just say put repairs and then input that in micro purchasing. So micro purchasing, again, it's when you're not checking prices, but you're buying things from multiple places for that item. So again, we see it a lot that you would mostly use micro purchasing for emergency food purchases or parts or repairs, things like that. Because like, again, if the food truck comes and they're missing an item, you're just going to go to the store and buy stuff. You're not going to check prices, but you already are purchasing food from a vendor, and then you purchase your milk from Highland or whoever. So again, the thing that we see on there a lot that people put micro purchasing is pest control and things like Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Now, I understand that maybe the school district went out on bid for those, but we have to know how they procured it. If child nutrition is paying for some of that, we have to know how it was procured. So it wasn't if we only see one pest control company on there, then you didn't do micro purchasing. You probably did small purchase. So if you spent child nutrition dollars on it, maybe you're required to use it because the school district paid, so I've seen it quite a bit. So the school district goes out on bid for the pest control company, and you use who the school uses because they go around to the whole district, and you're only paying a small portion of that. So you can do one of two things. You can either go talk to the person, if they're charging child nutrition, go talk to the person who picked out the pest control and say, how did you procure that? Or what you can do, what I've had a lot of larger schools do, is they'll be like, I contacted another pest control company myself, and but the one that they're using is cheaper because the school, since they already have the school, they were actually cheaper to come out than this other person that was just going to come out and do the cafeterias. So you can do one of two things: talk to the person who procured it and see how they procured it to make sure it followed standards, or even what you can do is be like, okay, this is who the school district is using. I'm going to ask them for a price, just separate, like how much would it be for the cafeteria, and then ask somebody else, how much would you charge me just for the cafeteria? And again, when you do small purchase, you don't have to go with the lowest bidder. You just have to tell us why you went with who you went with. So you could tell us, I talked to Pest Control A, Pest Control B, but I'm going with Pest Control B, even though they were more expensive, but that's who the district is using. So you can do the procurement, or you can find out if somebody at the school district has done the procurement. But they have to follow procurement procedures per USDA. With small purchase, under $250,000 per bid or solicitation. So again, that's what small purchase is. That's the federal guidelines. Now you as a district can have lower, and that's completely fine, but the max for the federal guidelines is $250,000. I did have a question about water softener. How you would procure that, I don't know. If you've already bought the water softener, you probably should have procured that, or if you're just talking about the maintenance on it, and I would say on the maintenance, since it's salt, you could, again, if you have, say, Ozark that brings you salt, or just contact a local, like say Ace or Lowe's or somebody, and ask them how much salt is. And again, you could say why you're using who you're using. But I'm assuming with water softener, if you purchased it, you went out on bid to see the price. And again, sometimes maybe you asked two people and only one person responded, or only one person had the product, or only one person could have stole it. So just make sure. I would definitely probably put that in small purchase. If that's what you did, you check prices. If you check prices, it would go under small purchase. If the district is contracted with a pest control company, then I need to get the information from them. That is correct. Because if you spend child nutrition dollars, we have to make sure it was procured using federal guidelines. So you can ask them how they did it. If they did not, this is what I would suggest. If they did not do it based how they should have done it on federal guidelines, I would go ahead, because I know you're a larger district, and just reach out to another pest control company and ask them, like, how much would you charge me just to come in and do the cafeteria? And then ask the company that the district is using, just so you can say that you got two price quotes. if the school didn't do it correctly. And again, small purchases, you just check prices. With whenever you're doing micro purchasing, you really need to be getting from 3 or more vendors. With small purchase, it's just checking prices, 2 qualified sources. Again, you don't even have to go with the cheapest one, as long as you document to us why you went with who you went with. So, and then if you have specifications, you would send that out. Now with small purchase, again, you would go by your threshold, not ours. And maybe that's the thing, is it's like, we need to update our threshold because ours is too low, like the other school did, which is great. I would definitely put emergency repairs, emergency food into micro purchasing. There is no place in the tool to put it. So what I would tell you is there's a comment section, and definitely put in the comments emergency. So even if it's just repairs, in the comments, put emergency. So the more information that you can give us, the better, with anything with procurement. So we're going to kind of go through. So this is the micro purchasing section. Again, what you're going to do is you're going to put the name of the vendor. So let's just say it's Ace Hardware, because we're going to see that on your expenditures. You're going to say Ace Hardware, maybe you have Lowe's, and then just put repairs. That's what I would suggest, because maybe one might be the fridge, but just whoever the vendor name is, tell us what it was for, like your goods or services, just put repairs. And then it says pay to the vendor. Again, always use this comment box. Oh, sorry, right here. This is for us. Anything in red, don't use, that's ours. But just in the comments, just put emergency. So if say you went to Homeland and just put food, that's all you really need to put is food. And then you can tell us, again, let me pull up the actual tool so I can see. So this is the tool. Again, I took it from there. And so when you paid the vendor, you just tell us how much, and this is very small. Again, you may have to increase it when you're doing it, but just tell us, did you spend below? And again, these thresholds are off. Because now the micro purchasing is $50,000. If you want to, in micro purchasing, again, it says 10,000 here, but it really is 50,000 now. But you can even just, if you want to put the total amount, well, it's going to see it on your expenditure, but you can just use this drop down box. And then how many purchases from that store, from that vendor? Was it 1? Was it 3? Just tell us how many times you purchased from them. And again, if you have any emergency, I would put emergency in here. And sometimes it's not an emergency, but if you did buy food and it was an emergency, just put that in the comments. Any information that you can give us. Okay, so it does right here, if you can list the total amount that you did pay to the vendor. So if the child nutrition uses the district vendor for pest control, then we would need to list the person who received the bids on number 1. Yes, you can do that, and we will definitely contact them. Yes, when it comes to pest control. And let me go back up here to the very top, and right here, just put pest control. This is what lets us know who we need to contact for what. So maybe your food and milk, someone else's pest control. That's where you would put that in the responsibilities, just to let us know. It does say right here, like conducts micro purchases, but if someone did a specific item, I would definitely list that here at the very top to make it helpful. Okay, so the next is small purchase, and this is the one I think you're mostly all going to be using. Again, you enter your vendors that you use for small purchase, and again, small purchasing is just checking prices. And again, they don't even, you could send it to 2 people, and only 1 person responded, or maybe you went online. Maybe you go online and you look at Amazon, and then you look at Walmart. Whatever you choose, that's all you have to do with small purchase, is just make sure you get at least 2 price quote, or at least you send it out to 2 people. So again, everything in this section is going to go for small purchase. You go the name of the vendor, the services like food, milk, whatever that service might be, the total amount that you paid to the vendor. And then right here it says, was it a one-time purchase or multiple? So just 1 or multiple. There's a drop-down box, as you can see right here. And then did the SFA receive more than 1 response? And maybe you did, it was a multiple purchases, and you said, did you receive more than one response? And you just put no. But maybe in this comments, you can tell us that you sent it to 3 people. So again, in the comments, use the comments box as much as possible, because sometimes you're only going to get 1 bid back. But we just need to know how many times that you did send it out. Just put that here in the comments. And then was it a food buying group? And that would go in this yes or no. And I would tell you right now, if you're using a food buying group, like the one in Oklahoma, maybe you have a small food buying, a small group that you're using, very small, like you and another, maybe you and two other schools that you did it yourself, it might go here. But if you're using a larger, like one that a lot of people are using, it will go into formal procurement because that's how they procured that, that food buying group. So it's based on how it was originally procured, even though you didn't procure it. And there's another thing I'll talk about when it talks about that. So this is the items, again, that you did, how many purchases in the year, again, use the drop-down box. So when I hand you these slides, it is a step-by-step of exactly how to fill that out. If you use a food buying group, which really, if you are using a food buying group in Oklahoma, unless it's one that we're not aware of, it won't go in small purchase. And I'll tell you where it does go. It will go into formal. And that's because that contract was over $250,000, especially one of the food buying groups that we know of is very large. So if you're spending over that amount of money, in general, the whole contract is over that amount of money, then it has to be formally procured. So again, with formal procurement, we've had a lot of people, school districts, many of you do not use formal. It's really only our big school districts, and it's per contract or per vendor. I had one person that I reviewed one year, and they really only do one bid. They send out one bid to like 20 people, but in that one bid, it's all formally procured, but may only spend like $2,500 with one person. They spend $500,000 with another vendor. Out of those 20 vendors, they're spending a lot of money, but they send out one giant bid. I mean, it covered food, it covered milk, it covered their linens, it covered paper towels, it covered their clothing, it covered everything. So in that case, the whole thing was formally procured. So everything's going to go informal. It's how you actually procure the item. Just because it falls in that dollar amount, do not put it there. So if you piggyback, that was an RFP, that would be a GPO, but it's going to go correct under formal procurement because that's how it was procured. Very good. But maybe you have another vendor that you use periodically. That one may have been small purchase because that one could even be possibly micro purchasing if you didn't check prices because you already had this other agreement over here. With formal procurement, we see it quite a bit, and this is just some information about it. A lot of people think like their milk bid. They're like, well, it came in a sealed envelope. Well, if you do a formal procurement, you have to have an advertisement in the paper, you have to have a specific bid opening. Just because they bring you something in a sealed envelope does not mean it's a sealed bid. So I just want people to know that because we would get that a lot. People would be like, I had milk, I spent $50,000 on milk, but it was a sealed bid, and it wasn't. If you just reached out and got prices, just because they gave it to you in an envelope, that doesn't mean it's a formal procurement. You have to have a bid opening. You have to put something in the paper and stuff like that if it's a formal procurement. So a lot of people kind of get confused with that. So with a formal procurement, again, you put the name of the vendor, and then you put the goods or services, so food and milk, just food, the contract value, and then if it was an IFB, which is a sealed bid, or an RFP, there's a drop-down box. And then the contract type is fixed or cost reimbursable. And like I don't remember correctly with the co-op with the Smart Campus. I can't remember if that's cost reimbursable or fixed price. You would just contact Edmund and find that out for sure. I just can't remember. But also I will tell you, if you're up for review, where they're probably going to ask for the original contract, and we're going to have attachment. I did that review years ago. We have to have a copy of the attachment that shows all the schools that are on there. And then the second part of the formal procurement, do not put a food service management company in this section. This is only for formal contracts, not food service management company. They go into a different area. And then again, the contract duration, maybe it's a 5-year contract that is up for renewals. Maybe you have a 1-year contract. Just let us know what that contract is. And we are going to look at the contract if that one is selected. Did you receive more than one response? Again, you may not have. If you did not, just put sent to 3 people or however many people it was sent to. And this is where you would put the GPO, what was the vendor contract obtained, and then were there any amendments to the contract, yes or no? And we'll just have to have a copy of that if it's selected for review. So food service management company. So there is one full section just for food service management company. And then you put the name of the company that you're using right here. And then right here, just put food. You can just put food and labor or whatever you'd like to put here. I don't think we have any really management only contracts where they only manage where the school buys all the food. We may have one or two. So, but if they do both labor and food, you can put that here. If it's just management, you can put management. The contract value. So everybody in the state of Oklahoma, it doesn't matter the value of the contract you're required to do. Maybe you're only spending $100,000 with the food service management company, but you did procure it formally. So you do go ahead and put the contract value in there, and everybody in Oklahoma did an RFP. So you're just going to put how much the contract value is, how much that you paid them, and it's going to be based on current year information. And then again, everybody will put RFP because that is how everybody did procure their food service management company. And then under contract type, put fixed price. We do not allow, Oklahoma does not allow for cost reimbursable contracts. What year of the contract you're in this year? So is it your renewal year or is it first year? And then did you receive more than one response when you originally did it? And then it would not be through co-op. This will be a no. And then were there any amendments made? And then you would probably select yes, because most people did have an amendment to theirs. And again, any information that you want to tell us, you can tell us here. Maybe on your renewal, I think it does tell us in the drop-down box. Let me go out there and check. I think it will ask what renewal year that you were in, and that is current year information. So everything else is previous year except for food service management company. Food service management company is current year information. Contract year and the drop down. Yes, it tells us what renewal year it is. If you're not in a renewal year, you can just put base year if you would like. That would be probably easier. Okay, so USDA processing. Do not fill out the bottom section if you do not have any of your commodities processed. Again, you'll just leave it blank. Most schools do not. If you do get it processed, you can tell us like who you used. This gets very complicated with processing. Even we get very confused by it because we as a department don't do it. It's DHS that handles that. Some people, there is a co-op, so you would list the co-op that you use just for commodities or USDA foods. So again, you list the name of the processor, the district that they use, the goods, maybe it's peanut butter, maybe it's cheese, the value of the contract, and then how you procured it. If the selection product is by taste or certain survey, click other, and then just add that to the comment section. And to be honest, 99% of you are doing it based on student survey or by taste. That's why you're choosing it, because the kids like it. So you can just put other and put student taste. So this is going to be some additional information regarding the procurement. So again, the procurement review is by previous year, except if you're a food service management company, we look at current year information. But again, if you were self-op one year, like last year, and now you're a food service management company this year, or you were a food service management company this year, and or vice versa, we're going to look at both years. With a school district, if you are self-op, we look at you every 5 years. If you are not self-op, if you use a food service management company, every 3. Now, I will tell you, we try to keep it in the year that you're reviewed. It doesn't always happen that way. We have some consultants that sometimes move their schedules a little bit, and like they were going to review them this year, but they moved it to the following year, and we've already done the procurement review. So I can't always move it back to the original year. So just to kind of let you know, you may be getting a procurement review even though it's not your school year to get an administrative review. So more buys direct from distributors. So what I need to put all those under processing contract. No, if you do it during a distributor, thank you for asking that, Pam, because, and actually you were one of my examples as well, because I remember doing your review and you're the one that does the one big bulk formal procurement. So you put all of your items in formal procurement. So no, if you use a distributor, put where the distributor would go. It would not go under processing. Thank you for saying that, because I knew I was missing something about the processing. And so just put your distributor down, because we just make sure that you use your distributor. So documentation. See, I'm not seeing where we submit documentation of solicitation of bid or bid evaluation. So no, so this is just how to fill out the tool. You fill out the tool, and then so when you fill out the tool, you send it back to DWG, and then they select what they're going to be reviewing. So once they select what they're going to be reviewing, then they ask for additional documentation. So it's a back and forth. It goes back and forth a couple of times. So something else about procurement is encumbrances and purchase orders. Just make sure, again, money must be encumbered before goods and services are ordered. Invoices have to be signed and dated. They look at that during your admin review. And then again, we're looking at invoices. Price quote comparison or bids maintained. Just make sure you have all your documentation, and then also make sure you have your non-kickback affidavit for anything over $25,000 or more. Again, keep all of your past year's 3 records and then your current year. So again, you should all have 3 years past, and then your current year records. If you're a food service management company, we're gonna be looking at current year. And except if you were food service management company last year and went self-op this year, we will look at the food service management company stuff last year. And just to let you know, we look at invoices and stuff like that with food service management company. So in cars, again, we have the procurement section. Sometimes I don't think everything got moved over. You can always at the very top, it says 2023, change it to 2022, and then just you can go find if there's any other documentation stuff that you need. And then the child nutrition manual is out there for the procurement section if you need anything else as well. So once the tool is completed, so again, take your expenditures from last year and then put them all into the tool, into the where it needs to go. Does it go in micro purchasing? I think most of you are going to be using small purchase. Maybe you might have a couple of formal. And again, if you have, thank you so much for reminding me about that. If you use a distributor, just put where you got your distributor. But if you have if you go to the processing company directly, that's when you would put them down there. So if you have any questions about the review, you can always contact Robin or contact the people at DWG. They are also in contact with us as well. If they have questions, they reach out to us and be like, what am I supposed to do? If you are state contract, I didn't have that in here. If you use state contract goes under formal procurement. That's how the state procured it. So if you do state contract as well, just put it under formal. That's how the state of Oklahoma procured the state contract. You would put Cisco, and then just in the comment section, put state contract. So we know that that's how you're using it. So we're not looking for you for documentation. So on our expenditure report, it has various people. No, if it has people on there, you would not include them on the worksheet. What you may just do on when you send it to DWG is just put on there like refunds, or even if it's just labor, we won't ask to see labor because you didn't procure the labor. So labor, again, the commodity processing fee, health department fee, and utilities, you don't have to put them on there because you can't procure that. But if you do have questions about where to go, you can ask me, but Robin's been doing this. This is year 3 that DWG, again, I say Robin was the initial person who was doing all this. Now there's like 3 or 4 people. She's just kind of our contact, but they did create this year the DWG CPA at DWG CPA. This is where we're going to send everything. Their stuff is a secure site. Again, I sent the email that they sent to you. I will be putting this out there. So and I'm going to send you guys the slides, the 1 by 1. So again, it's a walkthrough of where to put what and how to fill it out, just to make things easier on you, but just make sure everything is listed where it needs to be. Again, a lot of people get confused with the whole micro purchasing. They're just like, oh, I spent under $50,000. I'm just going to put it here. So it's not just where the dollar amount is, it's how it was actually procured. And if you do have questions, again, you can always reach out to me. I'm going to we have a training department email address, and it's not as nice as we would like it to be. Hold on. You can email this and we can help you out with, like, if you are up for review, if you're not sure if you are. Again, we'll send the tool out again. We'll send the checklist out again. We'll send everything out that you will need for review. So that's all I have for today. I'm glad I was able to get you out of here in time for if you want to do equipment grant. But you guys are good to go. Again, just the more documentation you can tell us. Again, there's the comment section that you can always use in the tool. I'll pull the tool up. So the more that you can give us, the better. So again, if it says like, how many if did you receive one response, just put yes or no. And maybe you did receive one response, but you also, maybe it was from Cisco, but you also sent it to Benny Keith and US Foods. You can put that here, or put sent to 2 people. Just the more information that you can give us, the better. But again, make sure you're filling out the Excel. When you save it as your school, and then you put procurement, and then that's what you'll send to them. They do have a secured site. They're a CPA company, so they have very secure way of sending things to them. It should be in the email of how they want it done. But again, this is for us. You just fill out this one tab. I just showed you the whole 1 page. Super easy to do, and that's all you have to do for the procurement review. And again, you send it to them. They're gonna come out here and select who they need to select, and then they'll come back and be like, okay, I selected this person, this person, this person. Can you send me like 3 invoices? And they'll tell you what they need for them. In the processing, let's see here. You guys are good to go if you have no questions. If in the processing, would we put the vendor we are receiving the items from? Correct, you would. But again, if you use a distributor, you would just put your list your distributor. So like maybe it's US Foods. You could just put US Foods, say in either formal, or if you did it based on small purchase, you could do that as well. If you have a food service management company for 5 years but did not renew, so if you had a food service management company last year, but now you're self-op, go ahead and put the food service management company into the food service management company, but put in the comments, last year was last year to use them, just to let them know. We want to make sure that you were billed correctly. So again, if you're with the food service management company, it goes down into the food service management company section. But I will be sending all the slides that tell you step by step of how to fill this out and what to put. Food service management company, go in the food service management company section. But again, all of your other expenditures that you spent child nutrition dollars on has to go someplace. So if you spent child nutrition dollars with 50 vendors, we need to see 50 vendors on here. So that is it. I'll let you guys go. You guys can hop on to the next one. I will stick around for questions. And again, if you ever need anything, you can contact DWG. They're very helpful. They also contact us if they're not for sure. And then you can contact us as well if you just have some procurement questions. We can definitely help out. So you guys are good to go. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will put this up in the walkthrough, and I will email this to you guys as well, so you guys have it for your files, so if you want to refer back to it. So thank you guys so much for joining, and have a great afternoon. I'll stick around just for 5 more minutes until the next one, so that way you guys can go join Equipment Grant. Talk to you later. That's a great question. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll put Cisco on there one time under formal, and then under the formal, you'll put Cisco, and then it says the value of the contract. And I think there might be, let me check over here. The duration. No, so no, just the one time. We just list each vendor one time. Some of them ask if you used it multiple times or just one time purchasing, but yeah, you can, even if that's everything you have is just Cisco, we'll just put Cisco on there one time. Yes, so we got a question about if your food service management company, you list the contract year for this current year. For this current year, food service management company, you go by current year information. And when it comes to everything else, we look at previous year documentation. Good questions, good questions. That is what's nice, because you may only be using 3 vendors, but you spend all of your money with 3 vendors, and only 3 vendors will go on here. So it's very, very helpful. Any other questions? Oh, good. I'm glad I made you less anxious. It looks overwhelming, but it's really not bad. So yes, you will just put base year if this is your first year using food service management company. Again, like this is the first year of that contract, that 5-year contract, you'll put base year and then just tell us who you went with, put them in the food service management company and put the current year. So it'd be base year or year 1, renewal 2, whatever year you're in, it'll be current year information. All right. You guys have a really good day. If you need anything, you know how to find us.